Welcome, fellow audio sorcerers, wizards, and gurus to my channel. I'm Dan Spencer, and I am the audio sorcerer. So this is the channel where I teach you how to perfect your recording, mixing, and mastering skills. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to master a song using Izotope Ozone 9. Now we're finally getting around to mastering the song that I did in my mix series, which I finished like probably months ago. A couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, we actually mastered using SoundCloud mastering to see what it can do with it. Now you're going to get to hear what I can do with it using Ozone 9. So before we get to the video, I do want to remind you guys I offer mixing and mastering services. If you go to audiosorcerer.com, you can check out my samples and my rates, and I give 10% off to new customers. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, and hit that notification bell so I have new videos coming out. So with that being said, let's get to this tutorial. Softly. All right, so here we are in Pro Tools, and today we're talking about how to master a song using Izotope Ozone 9. And what I have in here is a song called Stars. This is the song from my mix series, and we recently just did a master of it using SoundCloud mastering, and today I'm actually going to master it myself. And then I also have a reference track in here, and this is going to be used later on for something else, and I'll show you what that's all about. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to pop in Ozone 9 on our master bus here. So let me actually do that first, and that'll be under Dynamics, and then Ozone 9 Stereo. And then underneath Ozone 9, we're going to want to do Tonal Balance Control 2, so we can check our frequency spectrum with the adjustments that are made. So let me add that in. All right, so these are the only plugins we're going to need to achieve a good master today. Now, I do want to give you guys a little bit of background on mastering on top of this. So I'm mastering a song that I mixed, and I did a lot of my processing on the mix bus, which is getting it all set up for mastering. Now, if somebody sent me a song for mastering, I would likely tell them, hey, turn off your mix bus processing, and I would put on my own processing chain, which is actually made up of the CLA mixdown along with the Slate virtual tape machine, and then a couple other plugins within the Slate VMR, and then also the Izotope Imager 2. So I could do my imaging, obviously at this stage right now, especially the fact I'm using Ozone 9 actually has the imager in it, but I actually like to take care of it in the mixing phase when I can, because I have a better idea if I feel like my mix is wide enough. So that was just a little preface for what we're getting into now, and to let you know that there are some other plugins, some other tools that could go into mastering, and obviously there's the whole analog mastering world with people using, outboard gear. So just keep that in mind. Today is all about using Ozone 9 for mastering. So let's begin here. Let me open up the plugin. So the first thing you'll want to do once you have the plugin launched here is you're going to want to highlight the portion of your song that is the loudest, like basically loop it up. So I have multiple screens here, and I already have this looped up on my edit window currently, the last chorus of the song. To me, that's probably the loudest. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Master Assist button here, click that, and there are these options here. So for your modules, you have an option between modern and vintage. This is a pop punk song, so we're actually going to keep this on modern. I want more of a modern sound. And then for loudness and EQ, we have an option to do manual or reference. You can actually load in a reference track and match up the volume levels of it. But in this scenario, we're just going to do manual. And then we're actually going to leave it on medium. So medium does -12 LUFS. Low does -14. High does -11. Considering that Spotify is -14 and this medium is -12, we'll already be a little bit louder, which I think is a good thing. So medium is a good place to be with this plugin. And our destination, streaming, of course. I'm obviously in the music business, but I still don't know anybody who's actually listening to CDs today. I know it sounds it's weird to think about that, but it's pretty much the whole streaming world now. But if you do need to do anything for CD, just select it here. Basically, the difference between these two is that for CD, this is going to set the output limit to -0.3, the ceiling, and then this is going to do -1. And -1 is perfect for the streaming mediums to make sure that no clipping is happening. So once you have all this set here, the way you like it, you're going to hit next. And then nothing happens. You're like, well, what do I do now? all you have to do is play the track and it's going to do its thing. So I'm going to play the track now and we'll let it do its thing. Okay, so it finished and I hit the accept button, and basically it enabled 3 modules up here. And you can see that the modules that are enabled are lit up in blue. It said I had no extreme dynamics. I don't know if you guys caught that when it was doing its reading. So it didn't enable this module. So we can actually get rid of it. So I'm going to get rid of it there. So let's just take a quick look and see what it did. So for Equalizer 1, this is actually pretty common. You're going to see this happen a lot when you use this plugin. Equalizer 1 usually gives you a little low-end boost and a high-end boost. That's pretty much all it does, unless you have some really dramatic problems in there. But in that case, you should go back and fix them in the mix. Dynamic EQ here. This is telling me the areas that need to be tamed a little bit here, and it's using dynamic EQ to help with transparency. So that's what it did. It looks like the 300 to maybe 250 range. This is probably about 2.5K, and this is just pretty much the whole high shelved here. It was doing a boost over here, and then it's also taming it after the boost. Almost like a de-esser for the whole mix, but probably a little more transparent than a de-esser. And then for a maximizer here, as I said, -1 dB, that's our output ceiling for streaming. And then also true peak is enabled. That's very important. And then we had to bring down the threshold to -6.8 to hit our -12 LUFS point that we were going after. And it shows the mode of IRC IV Classic. There's quite a few over here, but this is the one I thought was best. And then these are some other adjustments it made over here. For transient emphasis was put on at amount of 25, and the stereo independence transient is at 10%. So that is pretty much everything it read in. So let's actually give it another listen here now that it's done doing its thing, and let's watch the LUFS meter here and see if we get around -12 or maybe even a little bit more. So here we go. Cool. So yeah, it's pretty much perfect when it comes to that. Now let's open up our tonal balance control too and see where we're at with our frequency spectrum here. Let's give it a listen. Oh, actually, we're going to want to put this on rock because this is a rock song. All right. All right, cool. So it looks like we are well within our thresholds here. Now, as I was mixing the song, I will say it has been probably a little bit brighter in the high mids than some of my other mixes. So I'm, imagining that this is going to end up being on the high end even when we finish the master, because I think the song just sounds better with those frequencies in there. All right, so going back to our Ozone 9 plugin here, there are 3 modules I want to add in. Now, we're going to test them out. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to use them. We may keep them, we may not. So if you want to add a module, you hit this plus button here. So we are going to add in the exciter first. Now, everything that you're going to add in, we want to put before the dynamic EQ, because the dynamic EQ is pretty much helping out the maximizer. These should be in this order. Okay, so after that, we want to add in the match EQ. We're going to put this first, and then we are going to put in the low end focus. Okay, pop that in there. And actually, we're going to put a fourth one in here just so you can check it out because it's pretty cool. We're not going to need to use it likely, but we'll pop it in. This is the master rebalance. And then we'll just pop that in, I guess, before all that stuff. If we need to move them around, move it around. So with that being said, let me actually turn off a couple of these here. Turn off that one. Because I guess we're going to start with the match EQ because I wanted to show you guys what that can do. It's pretty neat. And yep, that's everything. Okay, so for the match EQ here, what does this do? So what this does is you could actually play a song in your session and then hit the capture button, and it's going to read in the frequency spectrum. You do the same with your mix here, and then you pretty much adjust this amount knob here, and it's going to try to match the frequency spectrum of your song to the one of your reference, which is kind of cool. Now, you don't have to go over the top with it. You're going to see how I use this, and it's kind of cool. So the song I have in here is not quite the same genre. It's a rock song, but it's a little more heavier. So this is a song by Shine Down. For reading it, it's actually best to turn off all of your other plugins because the song's already mastered, so it's going to be really loud then. So let's turn off all of those. Let me unmute it and then mute this. And then we'll probably want to turn it down because it's going to probably be a little bit louder. So let me play it now. We'll hit the capture button. Cool. So you can see that here in yellow, it captured the spectrum here. So now all we have to do is play our song and then capture the spectrum for that. So let's do that now. So we'll unmute that. We'll mute this back up. Let's give it a listen. Cool. So now we get our spectrums in here. So you can see kind of how these lines are choppy. You can actually smooth them out more. You can make them even more jagged with this knob here. I find 50% ends up being the best. So your amount knob here is actually what's going to try to match it up here, and that is the white line. So if I go all the way up here, it gets pretty crazy. So yeah, you're not going to want to run this at 100%. You could be, good just running it like 10%, to be honest. We're going to start with it all the way down, and then we will, bring it in. Let me re-enable our other plugins here, though, so that we get a good overall picture. All right, so those are enabled. Actually, we're going to leave the EQ1 disabled. All right, let's give it a listen. Okay, 19%, that's pretty subtle, but if you're listening in headphones, you can definitely hear a minor difference. Now, the reason I turned off Equalizer 1 is because this match EQ is also going to be doing a boost down here at the bottom and also boost here at the top. So what I want to do is I'm going to leave the Equalizer 1's EQ in place. So we're going to re-enable it. And it looks like we are stopping around 100, and then also we'll say 5K. So what we're going to do in the match EQ is we're going to bring this over to 100 Hertz. So it's going to ignore everything over here and let this EQ handle the ranges that it's already put in place. And then we'll bring this one down to 5K. So, okay. So the match EQ is only going to be affecting stuff in this middle range here. So let's give it a listen again with this enabled and the rest of the stuff, and then we'll see if we want to dial this amount in anymore.
So damn right.
like that. It's very subtle. And I apologize every time I move this knob here. Unfortunately, my computer does that. I think that's pretty normal for this plugin. So, all right, we're going to leave that as is for now. We may actually pull this back depending on what we do with the exciter. And actually, I'm going to do the exciter next. So let's go to that. And let's enable it. Now, you can actually excite certain bands if you want to. We're going to treat the mix as a whole. We will enable oversampling. If your computer can handle it, then definitely enable this. You have a bunch of options in here for different types of basically saturation. So my favorite type to typically use on mixes, since I already have like tape emulation, is to use some sort of tube saturation. Now, I think it doesn't overly brighten it up, but it does give this little extra aura of sound behind it. So we're going to put it on tube, and then we'll leave it 100% on the mix, and then we'll bring the amount up and see if the mix benefits from it. Again, we're just kind of playing with it to see if we like it. So let's give it a listen. Cool. So I think that sounds great there, 2.1. Now, what I was actually listening for more than anything for this saturation was the vocals. And I felt like it just gave me a little more something out of the vocals at that, minimal 2.1 amount there. And I really like that. So we're going to leave our exciter there. And we are going to move on to our low-end focus. All right. So the low-end focus here is new to Ozone 9. And it's pretty cool. You have a couple options for your low end regarding punchy and smooth. So if you check out smooth here, this is, let's see if I can hover over it here. Of course, it doesn't want to pop up anything when I'm hovering it. Oh, there we go. Faster response time to emphasize transient peaks. Okay, this is a pop punk song, so obviously we want punchy. So take punchy, take the opposite, and that's smooth. So that keeps it simple. All right, so we will play the track, and we'll add some contrast here, and that's going to kind of enhance, in my mind, the kick drum a little bit, the punchiness of it. All right, let's give it a listen. Let's listen to it again. Yeah, I like it. It's just really nice, tight, and punchy. Again, we're making minimal adjustments to create this large picture. All these little adjustments together are going to create the picture. So I think that is good for our low-end focus. So those are the only 3 plugins that I wanted to add to what initially had. But I wanted to show you Master Rebalance because it's pretty neat. And I really don't know how this works under the hood because it works pretty well. So let me enable it here. So I'll play the song and I'll show you basically what it does, but you click on these focus options here and you turn up the gain, and it actually can bring out these particular instruments in the song somehow. I don't know how it does it. It does a really good job of it too. So we'll start with the vocals. Here we go.
You know I'll always care for you deeply. It's amazing how this feels so damn right. We could just last. You know I'll always care for you deeply. It's amazing how this feels so damn right. We could just last. You know.
You guys gotta admit, that's pretty cool. So again, if you're a mastering engineer and people are sending you music and, you know, maybe you just need like an extra dB of drums or an extra dB or two of vocals, this is great for that because it really does, as you can hear, enhance those particular instruments. Now, obviously when I turn the gain really high up, yeah, it sounds obviously less natural, but if you're just making a minor adjustment, trying to bring out just a little bit of it, this is game changing. So I love it. Again, for mixing my own stuff and mastering my own stuff, I would just fix it in the mix, but this is a great tool for mastering engineers that do other people's music. So with that being said, let's actually remove this because we're not going to use it. And let's listen to our mix. This is pretty much everything I would do at this point. Let's make sure our LUFS is good still, and then let's also make sure our Tonal Balance Control 2 is still looking good with our additions with the match EQ and the exciter, because both of these kind of brightened up the mix a little bit. So let's give it a listen.
You know I'll always care for you deeply. It's amazing how this feels so damn right. We could just last. You know I'll always care for you deeply. It's amazing how this feels so damn right. We could.
All right, cool. So we have hit our target LUFS. We are well within our ranges here. We are a little brighter in high mids, which I think is okay. Now, one cool thing I want to show you guys, if you do choose to want to, maybe bring this down a bit or maybe bring this up, because bringing this up would likely shift this down. Remember, this is an overall balance of your spectrum from all the way at the bottom to all the way at the top. So what you can do inside Tonal Balance Control 2, if you have Ozone 9, none of the prior Ozones work with this, you can go down to select a source here, and you'll see that I have Ozone Equalizer 1. I can click that. It's actually going to show my equalizer in this window. It's the same one right here. So if I was to add a node here, per se, you see it adds and I can adjust in both windows, which is kind of cool. So let me delete that. So I'm just letting you guys know, if you guys do want to make any further adjustments at this point in your master, you could do it this way when it comes to EQ. So I'm feeling good about this master. The last step of mastering you're going to want to do is we want to make sure that we have a clean start and a clean fade out at the end. So let me actually bring over my edit window here. Let me turn off my Raven faders. So we'll close out of these. And this is the master here. So we will zoom in a bit here. And why don't we actually give it a listen, see if it starts pretty well.
Every time we talk.
So what I might do is I might just put a very smidge of a fade here. It's just more of an OCD thing. So I'm going to turn off my slip here. And it's basically a super minor fade like that. All right, let's give that a listen. Perfect. Just make sure that there's no like pop or anything at the beginning of your song. There shouldn't be, but just in case. And obviously I fade out my mixes in the mixing stage, but we should listen to make sure that this sounds smooth. So let's listen to the last part of this. I actually have no issue with that. I think I did a pretty good job in the mixing stage, so we'll leave it as is. I might just put a small little fade here just to feel good about it. Let me zoom back in here. Cool. So that is how you master using Ozone 9. If you have a good mix, you're not going to have to make, overly exaggerated adjustments. Very simple. Again, let me just open back up our Ozone 9 here. Just to do a quick little final thoughts and closing here on what happened in the master. Match EQ, we're only doing in this range here. Look at these little white dips and peaks here. Very minimal. We're only doing 21% of the amount here. You don't want to over-exaggerate match EQ if you do end up using it. Our first equalizer here is handling our low-end boost and our high-end boost. Again, very typical on almost any masters. You are going to usually boost the low-end and you are usually going to brighten the mix. Low-end focus, we got a little more extra punch out of the kick drum by just doing a simple 14.4% boost on the contrast for this plugin. I really do like low-end focus. I think this is a great add from Ozone. Next for our exciter, just a little 2.1 amount of the tube saturation for the whole entire mix with oversampling enabled. I think it sounds great. The dynamic EQ again, this is what it thought needed to be tamed. 300 to maybe 250 range here, probably about 2.5, and then the high shelf. And then obviously we went over the maximizer earlier. This is just basically allowing us to get to our maximum loudness of negative 12 LUFS. And yep, that is Ozone 9 mastering for you guys there. So just my final thoughts. I love this plugin. I do use it for mastering, and it is my go-to plugin. I've been using Ozone for probably back to version 5, maybe even 4. I can't remember. So if you guys learned something, and if you like this plugin, give this video a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to know I have new videos coming out. So with that being said, until the next video, I will see you guys later, and peace out.